Hi, everyone. Welcome to our third UPM lesson for this year. Welcome to everyone, especially all of us who are in lockdown and who take this opportunity to be together, at least in a virtual way. Special welcome to our presenter tonight, Sima Sulaeman, who lives here in Melbourne, but she's originally from Iraq and got to know the Focolare movement there. She's got incredible experiences to share. You should ask her at times. She's a medical doctor, but she's also done some studies in theology and in biblical fields. But tonight she's not going to talk about medicine or theology, but she's going to introduce to us a document that's about education for peace. Very timely topic. So thank you, Sima, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Gianna, and hi, everyone. So today is the third presentation for the year about the education for peace. And it is a very important subject for the whole church. And that's what Chiara also found, that how important it is in human being relationship. So this document will just show the presentation. It's actually being prepared by the Focolare to present, and as you can see, it's the subject is education for peace in a multi-religious world, a Christian perspective. If we want to talk about education for peace, as it was prepared, this is a document that was prepared and then in the Focolare, in the main center, was presented by Sol, and this presentation also was prepared by Sol. She's a Focolarina of the Reformed Church of Madagascar. Now she's in the Focolare of Geneva, Switzerland, in the Central Europe, where she's studying Protestant theology. So she prepared this talk about the world of ecumenism. And as you can see here also, Chiara, if you remember that Chiara also had a prize for peace as for in 1996. As this is whole prepared, as you can see the logos, is the Pontifical Council of Interreligious Dialogue and the Office of Interreligious Dialogue in cooperation with the World Council of Churches. They all together prepared this document, and this is a small summary for what they talking about, and we need to sort of highlight a few points in there. Then we want to talk about who is the World Council of Churches. So that headquarters is in Geneva, and it's a worldwide council that brings about 350 churches from Lutheran, Orthodox, Anglican, Reformed, Baptist, Methodist, and other united and independent churches, all together coming and sort of meeting regularly, and they prepared this document. This Council of Churches is started at the dawn of 20th century by the desire of the missionaries, church leaders, young Christians who aspired to Christian unity. So it started after a lot of preparation in 1948, which is a great thing to see. So sometimes we think we are actually working, and a lot of people hoping that this will happen, but it is happening even if we don't hear about it. But this is an example about how we all working together and trying to do something. This is sort of, those photos are some of the meetings that they have, those group of people. So in summary, as we said, it's 350 churches in representing 560 million people, Christian, in about 110 countries. The World Council of Churches promotes Christian unity in faith. So they witness and serve for a just and peaceful world. So for years, as I said, there was a collaboration between the Roman Catholic Church, and various documents come between the two groups together. So, and this is an example of that. This is one of them. If we look here, like if we're talking about an important point is the art of dialogue. It's an art because how we communicate, how we talk, how we present ourselves, we need to know how to do that. And this is becoming very important when we want to promote peace. And as you can see here, the best person and really who did that in the 20th century, we can see our example is Chiara. She knew how to do it, and that's where we also gonna talk about while we mentioning few things. So first, it's a Christian based. So it's based on the Bible. Our first teacher is Jesus. So the practical steps to build peace is through education. And there are some recommendations that from this document is how to achieve this goal. So if you can see, the most important is, as I said, is based on the Bible. And this is one of the highlights in the Bible is, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. From Matthew chapter 5:9. So it's also, see how it's the peacemakers, they'll be called the children of God. And how good is that to present this subject while we have the word of life is about the papa, the child, the child that the Bible also says we have to all come back to be a children. So peacemakers are the children of God. So we are privileged as Christian to be having this specifically taught to us and from Jesus. It's not only a privilege, it's a vocation, our vocation as a Christian, but also it's a challenge. Now, is it just for a Christian? It's our vocation and our challenge and our privilege? No, it is for a lot of people from all religions and spiritual traditions on the planet. So we all need to work together for that. There are, as you know, several factors that contributing to violence. And in this one picture that you can see there, that I wanted to put this one, it's just happened this week actually, because it happens everywhere. If you, we all got experience some of those issues in all countries, in all history, but it's just because of that, just those, some of the factors that we're talking about. The poor governance, corruption, rise of sectarianism, militant secularism, exclusive nationalism, populist movements, regional domination, global economic inequalities. If we think about each one of these points, these are the factors that probably daily people, if they behave in this way, like they wanted to just isolate themselves from other people. We think that we are better than the other. We want to think that everyone has to be like what I say or what I think. If they don't do that, then that's not right. So that's all will lead to all these problems. And as you know, like, yes, it's, for example, now this picture is from Afghanistan. It's far away country, and who knows that we are in Australia or New Zealand, we won't be affected by that. It's far away. It's actually, our world is really small. Any problem happens anywhere in the world, that will touch me in one way or another. This world is very small. We can see that there are our presenter, like the Pope, you can see he's doing some movements and just going forward, initiating some relationship with people of goodwill, people of other religions, and trying to build peace. in general, like it's sometimes people use religion sort of in a different way as enhancing violence by using the reason is the religion. So it's manipulated, it's misused to justify some conflicts and aggression toward other human beings. But in reality, religion is actually importantly is to promote peace. Authentic religion, so it shouldn't be part of the problem, it should be part of the solution. So that's why we can see like all those movements, and the Pope, I put that picture when he went to the head of the Sunni of the world, like, and then also when he came to Iraq, you probably saw some of those movements, how it was a big, gave Iraq a big hope. Everybody discouraged the Pope from going to Iraq because it was not safe. And also I remembered Pope John Paul II, he wanted dearly to visit Iraq because of the place of Father Abraham, where all humanity started. So he was really wanted to do a pilgrim to Iraq, but it was all wars and he was discouraged. Same here, but Pope Francis insisted on going and he did it. And in the middle of all the war, people had a big, big hope when the Pope came, and a lot of things changed, and people opened eyes towards the Christianity in a different way after the Pope's visit. So that's how it is, building bridges between people. Then this document emphasizes on the vital role of education to promote the culture of peace. It's a common, like the resources come from the Christian tradition. And we want to construct a contribution of peace building through education in this multicultural world, multi-religious world. So it's really important. Yes, like what we do in the Focolare, it's all based on the Bible, but everyone can live these principles and we can educate people about how to become peacemaker. Then, as you can see, the document is talking about the Christian basis for education for peace is summarized in 5 points. So first of all is Christ is our peace. So he talks about that he's the King of peace. Since his life started at birth, remember when the angels had their famous song that glory be in the highest and peace on earth and peace to people of goodwill. So from his birth, he came to bring peace. And even at his resurrection, at the last minute when he was killed, like on the cross. So you see how he was always forgiving to the last minute. And then also sending to us the Holy Spirit in order to stay with us and bring peace in our hearts. Then who's next after Jesus is the beneficiaries. Christ's gift of peace came to his disciples, and they were called peacemakers. So they were taught how to make peace, as we saw even in when they came to take Jesus to be crucified, like Peter wanted to cut the ear of that soldier, but Jesus said, no, we don't. We don't do this way. So he was teaching them he was a good teacher, teaching them to the last minute, and they became peacemakers. And here we are after them, we follow into their footsteps. Then number 3, peace is intrinsically linked to a righteousness and justice. So the Hebrew word shalom, and that's also the Aramaic word to shlama, we say, and that's the word that the Pope Francis also said that word when he came to Iraq. So he said, peace be with you. So remember in the Bible, Jesus, and that time, like when they enter a house or see people, they don't say hi or hello, they say, peace be with you. So it's really very nice if you think about it, like when you greet someone, say, peace be with you. It's How big is that? It's really a beautiful world, and brings immediately harmony, brings sort of starting in a peaceful way when you come into the house. So that's also important, that brings justice. And then also cherishing and value education and as an intrinsic thing in the Christianity tradition, because we always evaluate education. And Jesus was the teacher for people. He always sat on the mountain, in the ship. You see how he was educating. So it's part of our tradition is teaching wisdom. Even in the Old Testament, there is always wisdom of the tradition of education. So it's really principal important thing in this world. In order to follow Jesus, we need to educate ourselves and others. Then the fifth point is peace to restore the right relationship, highlights the fundamental link between sin, forgiveness, and reconciliation. You know, during history, a lot of things happened, mistakes, using religion in the wrong way, but it's always good that we admit that these things happened and we forgive each other, and we try to rebuild bridges now. So peace in Christian tradition finds its origin and center in the cross and the resurrection of Jesus, then followed by the life of church. So if we read the Acts of Apostles, we see how they were living together. Like that's what's always the first Christian, we talk about the first church, everything they shared. There was nobody feels that he's above the other one. Nobody feels that he's got something that better than the others. So they were all sharing and looking after each other. So that's also in particular comes in baptism and Eucharist, because we sharing in baptism, we become members of one family, the family of Christ. So we all brothers and sisters, and Jesus is the head. Then in the Eucharist, we all, very important thing that we all taking from the same body. So how can we not be one when we eating the same body? Like as Christian, we eating this same body, that moment we are one. So peacemaking entails paying attention to both the past and the future, because we need to heal our memories from the past and also caring for our future. So it's like we all got some, probably in the recent times, about some traumas from the past, about breaking relationships, especially between groups or something like that, religions. But then we have to heal those memories by admitting that things happen, but we are going to work towards good future. And then with other people, as we say, the Trinity is also, we talking as a Christian, there's three, like Trine, God teaches that the divine persons, they are distinct, but at the same time, they relate to each other. They love one another and they in unity. So that's how humanity, yes, we can be distinct, but at the same time, we are one in spirit. And if we're talking about a few steps that we can do towards building peace, we can see that there are a few points. First one, and that's very important, that every person got the right to be educated, no matter who they are, which country they come from, a woman or a man, so a black or white, as this is becoming part of the human right. And also it's important to remember that we don't think that probably because I'm this person, I am from that country or I'm from that religion, I have the right to know the other people. No. Then what do we educate people? So, okay, we all need to be educated, but then what do we teach them? That's very important. On that, I have to comment about something, just part of observational thing. In the 80s and 90s, when Saddam Hussein was the president of Iraq during the Iran war, I've noticed something really, really important, and that is, we were children and we want to buy a toy, there wasn't any beautiful toy like a doll or a ball. They all sort of from the old plastic that's really not nice. But the best toys that they were sold in the market, they were guns, swords, all these sort of, even computer games. The first computer that we had in Iraq, the games, we had about 30 games, first 30 games, we bought them all wars. I didn't know there was other games that not like that, until there was another computer came from another country later after many years, and they had games of sports, like they had Olympic games. I said, wow, there are other games too. So with education, you are controlling people receiving this education. So as a teacher, it's a responsibility for the whole community, because whatever you teach those people, they grow on that. So for ages, since then, since the 80s, the new generations in Iraq, they don't know but to fight. And who's responsible for that? And now we see what's happening there. And that's all was building up to that. So it's important for the second point is holistic education. So it's important that we don't only teach people about what we are only, but what's the others. Because if we talk about others and we know who they are, then we probably can find some bridges. I remember in that too, Kiara, when she goes, like I remembered when she went to India, for example, first thing she does, she brings someone who knows the culture really well and try to learn about those people that she's going to talk to. In order to, first in her heart, she needs to build that relationship to understand what it is. Then she goes after that and try to talk to them. It's very important. Like the same thing when you come, you bring the Western culture and you try to educate a new culture. You try to say, okay, now we're invading Iraq, for example, when America and the other countries came, say, okay, now we want to build democracy in Iraq. Let's bring democracy, the American democracy, and put it there. It doesn't work like that. It failed miserably, as you know. So in order to try to build something, education, and try to build peace, you have to understand the base first. And then you build on that. You can't just bring something foreign. And so that's why it's important. I have to sort of talk about this point importantly to understand each other. We start by teaching and learning about each other. Then the other important point here is education for human being. We have to say we are all created in the image of God. And it's inside, it's the same. Pipochu, in one talk that when I was in Iraq, it's just like, I can't remember the whole talk that he talked about, but the one thing that touched me from there and changed my life a lot was, he said, we look at people through the pupil of God. So if we look to everyone through the pupil of God, like that means, how do God see this person? If we think like that, we will never make a mistake. We will never judge anyone. God is the Father of all of us. He created all of us equal. I look at the inside, we all the same. Outside, when we see black or white or short or tall or all that, that's things adopted because of the environment. Someone in a very sunny, hot weather, of course, they become adopted to have a dark skin. In Eskimos and things like that, they were white, etc. Those things came later. But when God created all of us, he created us equal. And if we want to retrain ourselves, we have to remember that real fact, that God, how would he look to that person? We look like him. And we got a lot of good examples from Jesus in the Bible. As you said, as that continuation to that, Jesus is the model as a teacher. So we were calling him Rabbi. Rabbi means a teacher. So he engaged very well in the dialogue. When he talked to his disciples, he doesn't just teach them, just say, you do this and you do this and you do this. It's not just like that. He gave them parables. He gave them stories, and he allowed them to understand that, try to analyze that, and then ask questions. Not just simply he gives them the resolution for everything, because it's interactive. So education, you have to allow the other person to think and discuss and try to understand it in their own way. And you can't imagine how many things, great things, with every parable, everything that Jesus taught. People studied that and still studying and making books from all that. So that's how it is. It's an interactive education. The other important point, education is a lifelong learning, and learning from all. So we all, if we want to be importantly good in good communication with others, we always learn new things. And same thing with our religious leaders. It's importantly to remember that they have to be learners too. They need to always learn. And as I mentioned before, the word of life about Jesus pointed who's the best. When they asked him who's the best, people would thought, oh, he'll bring someone who's been very good, probably the smartest, the most, who knows what. Who would imagine that Jesus will bring a child and put us to be this one? This is your example. So that's how it is. We humble ourselves, leaders, doctors, elders, whoever we think we are, from the best country in the world. Remember, it's the child is the best. And then if we want to learn about peace and power, it's in biblical revelation. Peace is not just about absence of war. So people sometimes abuse their power. So they sort of treat people unequally, discriminate, or in conflicts. So yes, we might not have a major war like we here in Australia. We don't have wars, but we don't want to have discrimination. We don't want to have inequality, even in our hearts, in our minds. It's just try to think again and think what God would look to his children. Are they equal? Like a mother, when you look at your children, or a father, will you look at them as unequal, one less than the other, even if they're disabled, even one is smarter than the other, whatever is the differences, they all, in the eyes of father or mother or God, they all equal. So peace education must help to shape the nations and leadership to service the community, not to have a power on the community. So with that, we need to be also to speak the truth to the power when it's required for the voiceless people. So that's very important, of course, not with violence, but with wisdom. So when we say that in a nice way without hurting anyone, but it's important to say what it is. Also, learning to protect and affirm the other. It's just happened. Other in English You just add to it BR, it becomes brother. So I just found it really amazing. It's just in English, it happens like that. So education need to encourage the positive vision of a human being. So we want to change our thinking about the other to make that person a brother. And it's a big difference between other and brother. So it's really important, whatever ethnicity, whatever religion, wherever they come from. The other, it might be just me. I tell you this, in the 16th century, us, the Chaldean of Iraq, we were part of the Orthodox Church. So at some stage, one of the big patriarch, he decided that, no, we have to go back to the Catholic Church. So from that century, we became, so initially we were, of course, all together, then the Orthodox Church, and we were part of it, out of the Orthodox, out of the church to the Orthodox Church. And then at some stage, the big patriarch came back and to the Catholic Church, and all the Chaldean became Catholic again. And that's about 400 years ago. So we have our brothers and sisters who stayed Orthodox. We call them the Assyrians. So they all one race, Chaldean and Assyrian. The Chaldean, the people who came and became part of the Catholic Church. Are they different than those people? They're the same. We are the same. If we were before Orthodox and became Catholic, or they stayed Orthodox, they are our brothers and sisters. Why? I don't know why we look at them, oh no, they different church. We close the doors. No, we can't. We don't feel the same when we talk to each other. So I just want to, and the same thing with the Anglican Church. When the king decided, or the queen decided, now everyone is Anglican. So what happened after that? They're the same people, the same Jesus. We just need to remember that. The one that's uniting us is Jesus. So if we change the names, and that God doesn't look at us who's Catholic, who's Orthodox, who's Reformed Church. He looks at, from heaven to us as we are his children, and we need to remember that. So the other important thing is to try in a practical way, we build peace through social media. And no better time to do that than now, because we can't even communicate face to face. How can we build this communication and dialogue unless it's through social media, thanks to Zoom and all these ways of communication? It's important to use those wisely. So even by a comment on Facebook or something that we see, we try to teach our eyes to look to the things as God look at them. And most important thing is, the best teacher for us is the book, that the Bible, the scriptures. We learn. If we don't know how to do that, Jesus is the best teacher. Then the other important way of learning is our worship, our mass, our spirituality, which can transform our hearts of stones to hearts of flesh and become antidote to fundamentalism. I always remember that important moment. That's and I always say, Chiara also felt that moment when she did the pact that we do after the Eucharist. I felt it specifically when during the war, when there was 33 countries, about in 1990, when I was a student, we had to go to the north where our parents wanted us to run away from Baghdad when there was a possibility of chemical weapon used probably on Baghdad. So I didn't want to leave, because like Chiara didn't leave her colleagues, like friends and sisters, when her parents left. But we had to obey. We couldn't do that in Iraq. We have to listen to the parents. So we went to the north, our group. So we were half-half. Half went to the north, half stayed in Baghdad. And no better moment that united us. In reality, I felt it in my heart at that moment than taking the Eucharist. I said, if nothing else uniting us at this moment, this little prayer after the Eucharist, because we, wherever we are, there is Jesus, the Eucharist, we taking the same body. So for sure, at that moment, we are one. And Chiara said that when she said, wherever there is a tabernacle, I'm not lonely. So that's how it is. And we are the same. So just remember, as Christian, that moment, that time when we take the body of Jesus, we are one. And then education is important to prevent violence and promote reconciliation with other churches, with other people from different religions or people of goodwill. So it's important to heal all wounds of the past and all the victims of physical and emotional trauma. So the other thing, we want to aim to eradicate poverty, injustice, and also to protect the environment, because this earth is, we need to look after it, because generations and generations come after us. We want to, as we took it, we give it to them in safe, to be safe for them to live. We need to foster harmony and stability in the whole creation. And this is important sentence. It says, inequality and globalization of indifference is a grave threat of peace, to peace. So these are in our heads, these sort of things is indifference. Who cares? Like other places, like we're talking about places where there's war, they far away. It's we okay, we here okay. No, we have to think about others. We try and look for those people that need here, around us, or somewhere else. Then there were some recommendations about education for peace. So first, to develop educational resources and curricula. As I said, we as people living at this age and at this time are responsible for what our children and the future generations are getting. If we don't do it right, of course, the consequences come after. We have to be well prepared. We have to work together in order to see and prepare what sort of resources we need to build for the new generation. We need to identify potential partners with people who are doing it right, and develop and create an interactive educational tools between groups, between churches, between other people in the country. Everybody need to learn those sort of principles. So encourage also the Christian institutions who offer catechism and programs for children and youth to integrate some of these elements of peace education into their spiritual and human formation. How do we do that? So we try to encourage these things. They're all based on the Bible and Jesus' teaching. But also, for example, we bring some examples from life stories of people. And I put this picture. Those are just two examples of many, many stories of people in our age, in our time, so people understand. If you talk to people sometimes, people say, when we talk about Jesus, the disciples say, oh, they lived in different generation. That was different. It was easy at that time. Maybe this time is different. We have a lot of challenges, but we can bring some examples of these days. Here they are, Mother Teresa and Chiara. They both lived in our time. And there is much more people also we can bring as an example. So, and finally, we have to pray together for peace, because we work for it, but also we need to pray together in order to build peace. And this is a summary of everything. So as a Christian, as a human being, we got our teaching from Jesus. And if you can see, Jesus had 12 disciples. He was one person, he had 12 disciples. And through his teaching, he selected not a major teachers, not professors. He didn't select those people for his teaching. He selected fishermen, tax collectors, simple people who are children, nobody think about them. So when he selected those 12 people, through them, the message came to us today, through generations of people, millions of people. So I can't say today that it's not my responsibility. It's a responsibility of somebody who studied education. That's what is it about. We have to build all these principles into wherever I'm working, wherever I'm at home, at work, in the road when I walk. I have to build around me exactly like this picture, people who I would be the light for them, and then they will take this light to other people. And that's how we educate people, by example, not by studying big books. It's by trying to live that. And then it comes this picture that I show you, Kiara and people following her. She's a role model for us because Jesus is the role model for everyone, and she followed Jesus. And then she's got followers who's following her example too in how to do that. And then those people following Kiara, who are me and you and everyone else, we have to have other people too. We can't be indifferent when we talk about building peace, educating peace without giving advice. It's not about talking about it, it's living it. And that's how it affected people. Like those people in all generations that following Kiara, following Jesus, they just lived simple things. They tried to do the right thing by loving, caring, listening, those things, and learn about each other. And then we know that at the end, we all human beings, and we all looking for peace. And if we look after each other in the right way, we care, then the future generations will be in safe place. If we look at the world and say, where is this bad thing come from? It's because we are responsible as a Christian first, because we, as we said, it's our vocation is to build peace. And then because of us, we have to have around us also a lot of people to follow. Thank you very much. We can take some questions after. Please, if Stephen is here, if he can read this prayer for us. Thank you, Stephen.
Sure, Sima. Dear Lord, awaken our conscience, expel inner fears, heal wounds, disarm the violent, tear down walls of enmity, facilitate forgiveness, bring about reconciliation. Open our hearts to the cries of those suffering. Urge us to eradicate social sins. Enable us to see everyone as our brother or sister, like you see us all, and transform us to be peacemakers.
Thank you, Stephen. If anybody would like to comment or add something, ask any question.
Sima, can you tell us again the lovely quote about look at the other person through the pupil? Who said the quote?
Of God.
Yes.
Stephen.
Who
Yes.
said it and where was it?
So I like long time ago, I think that happened. That was a talk in 1998 or something. We had in one of the conferences, Pipocho was talking about I can't remember what was the subject, but I think this sentence affected me a lot, that if we want to look to the other human being in order to interact well, we have to look at them as if we are looking through the pupil of God. So it's not with your own eyes, with your, like you can judge them with your own eyes. Imagine your eyes looking through the pupil of God. Then if you look through the eyes of God, that's just sort of symbolic thing, because God is, but it's just a symbolic thing. That means we transform our way of looking at people, of the way of not judging, just looking at them as in a loving heart of God. Like, as I said, example is mother, a father, how we look at everyone. All the children are equal. All our moms and dads, they don't sort of say, you are the best, you are not, you are second. They look equally. Same thing with God. So if we look through the eyes of God, how he look at this situation, sometimes we don't know how to react when there is something happened. But if we think, okay, how would Jesus look at that situation? Then we know how to love that person in many examples.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Just for those who might not know, Pepuccio was one of the first Focolarini with Chiara in the early times, one of the first men. I think Sydney Focolare wants to say something instead.
Okay. First of all, I want to take the opportunity to thank you. Sima was beautiful. I really enjoyed following the text. It was very easy to follow. And then with the experience, it make it so clear, no? Because it almost was like going inside of someone that really lived it, that how to say, lived for peace, no? We see in your experience. But I just want to emphasize also, I like the when you say other and then brother. So it for me was like the other it became so close now because it's a brother, no longer on the other side, but it's with me. I don't know, I just make this connection that the B and the R, put it together. The other is no longer outside, but it's in me. So I really, and then also at the beginning when you mentioned the greeting, no? Peace be with you. And then I really felt that so strong when we say at Mass, no? But now it had a much bigger scale, because so it can be a greeting that I can say any other time, no? Like it's that instead of a hi, but no, because also the times that we are living now ask for that, no, for that greeting. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Thanks.
Thanks, Gloria. Mark.
Thanks, Sima. Sima, I guess, we look at, you included the picture from Kabul in your presentation, and we look at what's happening in Afghanistan and more broadly through the Middle East, where things are happening that aren't peace, that are contrary to peace, being done in the name of religion by people who regard themselves as living their religious belief very purely and very, to the max, yet the outcome is not peace. I guess with your perspective of having lived in the Middle East and lived in that sort of environment, do you have hope? Because sometimes it's very hard to have hope when we see these sort of things happening.
So, yes, sometimes you'd feel that are people having hope there? Probably more than you think. People still surviving and doing all what they're doing, and they still trying to do the right thing in spite of that, and because of hope. The hope comes not because of the situation, because we know that, I always think about that, like because our world is in the hands of God. So no matter what happened, we always in a safe hand that there is someone holding things together. If it was left to me and other people, probably it will be a different story. But during all these years, or whatever happened in the world, even now when we look at what's happening now with COVID and all that, it's just like you think, oh, there is no tomorrow. But you know it's a cloud and it will go. During history, a lot of things happened. Yes, sometimes we go to the bottom of the things, but then a new flower will come and then things will start again. It's just we need to keep trying. Like sometimes we think that we can't change the world, but can I change only one person beside me? If each of us can try just the circle that's around me, as Chiara said, light one light in your place, and the other person will light there and there and there, and the whole city will be enlightened. So you don't have to think in a far away thing or dreams. It's just do one simple thing, one act of love at a time. And then if all of us try a little bit, then that's how the circle of love will continue and things will change. So yes, I know the situation is getting worse and worse, for example, in Iraq, Afghanistan, those places, but there is always something will happen and things will change again.
And you're very firm that that through that, I guess, that love, that people who don't want a dialogue and use their religion as an excuse to not dialogue, that they come around.
Yeah, they will. They will. I think, especially in this world that everything is open, people are seeing things. You can't be just brainwash people into places. These days, the world is open. As I said, it's a small world. It's not as big as we were thinking before. Whatever happens is just open to the whole world. So we better start working, doing the good, right thing so that our earth will stay for generations and generations.
Thanks, Sima.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
The last one for tonight, Karim.
Thank you, Sima. Listening to you, I actually was drinking wisdom. Unity between us was strong, and you were expressing it with such simplicity and such depth. Many things have struck me from what you said, but I appreciated enormously the way you communicated it. And one of the aspects that also stayed with me, apart from the many that have been mentioned, is your comment about the fact that from a political perspective, the attempt by the United States to impose their version of democracy and the interpretation of that, of the failure of it, at the end of the day, it's because they didn't make themselves one.
Exactly.
Because they didn't listen. They came in full of themselves in order to impose a way of life rather than grow it, which compared to the message of the letter is listen, make yourself one. That's how you build the peace and nurture the good, because the seeds of the Holy Spirit are everywhere, are in everyone. So I share it, despite my observation of the history of the Middle East and the study of it over the centuries, I do share your optimism, and because it's anchored in the belief that God will win at the end, love will win.
That's right.
It will take a lot of effort.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I like that. How do we make ourselves one in order to be coming to the other person's room rather than stay in my own and try to bring other people to be. So yes, it's important that when we do it, and I know we all can do mistakes sometimes. We can do the wrong thing, but that's how we grow. Yes, we can make small mistake, but the best thing is we learn from that, and then next time we can do it better. And I'm sure even all the world and everybody, let's think that all our leaders trying to do the right thing. We might succeed, we might not. But if we don't, we have to admit and then go forward and try to do the best. That's how we build it.
If we are perfect, it must be there is something wrong. Nobody is perfect except Him who created us. We are always human beings and we can do mistakes. But the most important thing that when we do something wrong or we hurt someone, just to go back and make it. We don't have to say, oh, sorry, because I have done that. There are many other ways that you can come together and put peace like there with Jesus in our midst, always.
That's right. Thanks, Denise.
Always to forget, not to forget that Jesus is in our midst wherever we are,
Yes.
alone or with a group. Like I am a catechist and I was teaching 4th grade, and then one of the girls, our lesson is Jesus is in our midst, and that girl from 4th grade, she couldn't believe how Jesus in our midst, how do we know, how do we don't feel him? And as much as I tried, then their bell rang, I said, thank God, I go to Father and ask him what to say. Then we had Bishop Kremin came to visit us, it happened, and I shared that with him. And he said, my daughter, don't go too deep, you will lose your faith. Then I said, no, this is not right. Then Karim came, he was from Jerusalem there, and I said, Karim, I want you to come with me this lesson and to convince that girl, just to make her understand that Jesus in our midst. And when he gave the lesson, that girl was really convinced, because he opened the big windows in the classroom there in the public school, and the wind, it was very windy and rainy. So the wind blew the curtains and he started to scream, catch the wind, stop the wind. The children started to look like that. And then he said, okay, now we close the window. Did you see the wind? You felt there was a wind. That's Jesus in our midst. So she never said anything after that again.
Thank you, Denise.
Thanks, Denise.
Thank you, Denise. So we finish with an example of
Yes.
education. That's
Yes,
very topical.
very.
So
Yeah.
a big thank you to Sima for this presentation. It was beautiful. And also for everyone else who has shared their words of wisdom and questions. I think it's really been an enrichment for all of us to have been here. All right, other than that, it just remains to say wish you all a nice evening and see you. Oh no, I did forget. See you next time. That's exactly the next lesson, UPM lesson on the 15th of September. Again, the 3rd Wednesday of the month. Still on dialogue, a look at today's culture, and the presenter will be Karim, so whom you all know, who's here. So very much looking forward to that. And so that's on the 15th of September, same time, same place. So
Thanks,
now
everyone.
have a nice evening.
Thanks. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Sima.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Sima.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sima.
Thank you, Sima.
Thank you.